Matt,
Yes,
do you like your mom?
yes,
I'm glad you said that.
Matt was 3 hours old when Wendy found out that Matt has Down syndrome.
And I was just 23 years old when I had him, so back then very little was known about Down syndrome, or at least I knew very little about Down syndrome.
Wendy experienced shock, fear, trauma, devastation, and anger, thinking, what did I do?
Why me? All of those. Because what I did know about Down syndrome, I was afraid that my life had just been ruined, and I didn't know what my baby would be able to do and what I would be able to do. And so I went from being an excited new mom to experiencing all these emotions.
People in Wendy's circle told her she had to be special because God only sends these babies to special people.
I didn't feel special, and to be honest, I didn't want to be that special person. But I also, guilt came with those feelings of not feeling like everybody was excited for me, and I wasn't feeling that same excitement.
Wendy grieved for a while. Sometimes she still grieves.
But the truth is, by the time I left the hospital, I had bonded with him. He was born 3.5 weeks early, so he had jaundice, and so we had to stay in the NICU for a few extra days. So we stayed in the hospital with him, and all I could see was this perfect little baby. And so in those first 3 to 5 days, even though I was grieving and trying to figure out what was going on, I was also filled with an enormous amount of love, because he was just a baby and he was cute and precious, and I just knew I needed him and he needed me. So by the time we left the hospital, all these things that people kind of been telling me in those few days that he would never do, I just became determined to prove them all wrong. He was going to drive, he was going to work, he was going to get married, he was going to finish high school, he was going to date, he was going to do all these things. And all those naysayers were not going to stop us from showing them, I guess.
Now Matt is 32 years old. Wendy says that Matt has proved them wrong.
I underestimated my own son, but at the same time, we had to shift those goals and dreams that I had for him when I walked out of the hospital. We just created new goals and dreams.
Wendy tells us some of the hardest things about having a child with Down syndrome.
There's so many hards, getting him to fit in, to be accepted, in society, even though that's come a long way. For me personally, patience, it takes a lot of patience, and not comparing him to other kids, just knowing that he's his own person, just like I'm my own person. I can't do certain things, that's what makes me different from you or anyone else, but there's been a lot of hards, but we've worked through them, and we come up with our solutions that get us through.
In school, Matt did cluster units. Unfortunately, the cluster units were in different schools, so every year he went to a different school.
But it was difficult mainstreaming him, because it was every year a whole new different group of people, instead of keeping him in the same school and growing with those kids who were also going there, because of course I was pro-inclusion. And at the same time, I had to be realistic and advocate for what was best for my son. So for us, the cluster worked well. It just was unfortunate that it moved from school to school. And so every year was him getting to know a whole new set of other students and teachers and staff.
Matt has been out of school for 10 years. He has had problems with retention, so he took some job coaching classes through his school.
So one of my goals when we walked out of the hospital was he was going to get a job, and he did some great job coaching in his after high school program. But because of these comprehension issues we were experiencing, I kind of had my protective mama bear hat on and was worried about putting him in the workforce. I didn't want him to end up with somebody who may not be patient with him or understanding. And so what I did instead was found programs for him. So he goes to some adult day programs. He's involved in bowling. He has an alumni bowling league that he's involved in. He goes to the library. I just do everything I can to keep him busy. He's not one who sits and watches TV or, just stays home all the time. I do kind of try to keep him out there busy.
So you crafted his post-school I wouldn't say program, but to keep him busy and occupied, you've come up with that yourself.
Yeah, and it has been difficult because there aren't a lot of programs out there for our kids, these adults.
You were a single mom?
So when he was 3 years old, his dad and I got divorced. I didn't want to put myself out there dating for fear of, a lot of fears, who's going to love me and this child that's going to be there probably forever. And I didn't want to not only feel that rejection for myself, but for my son. So I kind of just did our own little world. My focus was on him and making sure I did everything I could to make sure he reached his greatest potential.
John came into their lives when Wendy and Matt needed them most.
John's awesome. At first I had my red flags up, and we met by accident, honestly. But when it became serious and I felt brave enough to introduce him to Matt, he admitted later on that he was a little bit nervous.
Wendy calls John her knight in shining armor.
Because he rescued this damsel in distress. And his screen name was Sir Jonathan. So we had this joke going back and forth that he was my knight in shining armor.
I just treated him like I would any other little kid at the time, because he was about 8 or 10 or something like that. But didn't really have any hesitations because I could just treat him like I would any other little kid, and he loved it, and responded so well. So it seemed to just fit.
Wendy and John have been together now for 25 years, and Matt and John are the best buds.
I just sometimes have to put them both in check because they're guys, they do their guy things. He takes Matt out and they just go hang out, or he'll get Matt out helping him in the yard, but I just love watching how he treats my son. And on top of that, he's enough removed that when I'm struggling or if I can't come up with a solution, he can say, well, honey, what if we try it this way? Or what if we reword it this way? Or what if we do this, And I thought, why didn't I think of that? And so it's awesome to have a partner who is enough removed that can see the different perspective, but at the same time still be involved enough to come up with great solutions and make it all work for our family.
Matt's bio dad sees him every other weekend and once during the week.
And they actually just got back from vacation, so he's involved with everything still on that side of the family. In fact, I often say that Matt's got the best of both worlds. As unfortunate as our divorce was, he's got 2 dads as far as I'm concerned, and they both love him, and he got lucky in that area.
Very good. Tell me about the joys.
How long do we have? That's the one thing I would love to say to new parents, is that there's joy in everything. We celebrate. I did not know this life would be a life of celebration. We celebrated when he learned to tie his shoes, when he learned to button up his pants. It wasn't just about the whole potty training and learning to feed himself and all that, learning walk, crawl, all that stuff. It was beyond that. It was when he brushed his teeth, when he got his sock on without it getting stuck in his toes, when he would come home and he'd get 100% on a spelling test, and the words were so simple, and yet I knew what work we had gone into to get there. So there are joys in watching him accomplish what he wants to do. Joy is in watching him entertain us, watching him read. I love to just watch him. You know, I'll come walking around the corner and he'll be sitting there and he's reading a book, and I'm just so proud that my son can read. When 23 years, you know, well, I was 23 years, but in that hospital room, I wondered if that was something he would ever do. And so, yeah, so there's joy in, you can't even pinpoint all of the joys.
Wendy says what she's most excited about is that she and Matt are working on co-authoring a book right now.
I keep running into these little messages I've written myself in the last probably 25, 30 years of my life that I've always wanted to write a book. But my book that I initially wanted to write was for people with special needs. And so a couple of years ago, I just felt a prompting from the universe that I needed to write this book, but that wasn't the book that I felt led to write.
Since Wendy had Matt, there's been a lot more inclusion for people with disabilities. Well, a lot of things have changed over the last 32 years. The one thing that has remained consistent is those hard emotions.
And so I saw a lot of postings on social media of new parents just, you know, coming out and saying, you know, we just found out, we're sorry, we're just trying to accept this and we just don't know where to go or how to begin. And when I started seeing all of those posts, it took me back to those first few hours for me. And I feel that pain. I feel that heartache. And yet here I am 32 years into this journey, and it's been amazing. And so that's why I decided to write this book. Is I originally intended it to be for new parents, to kind of be like a crystal ball.
Each chapter is a new story of a situation Matt has put her in. It can be an embarrassing or a learning one, and how she came through it.
So my little tagline is healing, hope, and humor. So, you know, get through the healing, and you're gonna always need some healing because this journey never ends. And then hope, all the hopes that come with the diagnosis and what you want for your child. And then humor. I mean, be prepared to laugh, and my book has a lot of laughter in it. It's, be ready to laugh. It's Big People Don't Pee in the Park, a mother and son's journey with Down syndrome. Yeah, October 3rd is when it's supposed to be published. So just in time for Down Syndrome Awareness Month. That was my goal, and I've worked so hard to meet that goal. So.
That's awesome. So if you were to give advice to the young you, if you could do that, what would you have told your 23-year-old self, knowing what you know now?
It's okay. It's okay to have all these emotions, but I promise you everything is going to be amazing. You're in for a wonderful ride. You know this. I know it's hard to believe this right now, but trust me, this life is going to be amazing.
Anything else that you would want to tell new parents, or you know, advice you want to give? If not, fine, but if so, what would that be?
Well, my advice is that I know it may be intimidated when you come in contact with somebody with Down syndrome or special needs, intimidating. But honestly, they're people. They just want to be included. They have feelings. And I guarantee you, if you were to reach out to them and just spark up a conversation, you'd be surprised at where that could go and how awesome you would feel when you walk away. They're just people just like us, you know? And honestly, I have tried so hard to focus more on their abilities than their disabilities. And we've been very blessed with amazing people in our life who treat Matt like they would their own children or just one of the guys. And that just makes me so happy to see how well received he's been for the last 32 years in our circle of friends, in our family, and even with complete strangers.
Help us make more Orange Socks videos by clicking below to subscribe. And make sure you hit the bell so you never miss an Orange Socks video. You can also find more of our videos here. Thanks for watching.